All right, today on this episode movie breakdowns, we're going to give a grade to the newest movie, 2023's The Iron Claw. We're going to grade it A through F, pluses, minuses do count. So what the grade is going to be? Well, you got to stick to the end. But before I hop into that, I want to let you guys know what movie breakdowns is, a movie review series. If you want me to review a movie, please put in the comment section below, and I get to as best I can. I also have a Patreon, Patreon/Ali Zakka for $2 a month. Get the cut in front of everybody and get your review out way before it comes out on Facebook and YouTube. Now, let's go ahead and get into today's episode of a spoiler-free version of The Iron Claw for 2023. Now, what is The Iron Claw about? It's about the Von Erich family, the wrestling family that had a bunch of tragic events happen in their lifetime. 4 wrestling brothers, and pretty much, if you know the history of wrestling, you know your wrestling lore, you know what happened to the Von Erichs, and this movie pretty much put that on display. The things I liked about this movie, the acting. The acting in this movie was phenomenal. I mean, Zac Efron right now trying to get an Oscar by this movie. They all did a phenomenal job, from the actresses to the actors to everybody in this movie. You felt every emotion that hits when every impact hit in this movie. Another thing I like the music of this movie. I think the music hit the times, based in the 1980s. It flows, it does a good job. And another thing I liked in this movie is that the pacing of it, like the movie, it kind of gets you to a high point. Like this movie pacing where it gets you pretty much bubble up and feeling warm and feeling like everything's like going great. And it's a slow build to all this momentous things for each brother. But things happen to these brothers as like the movie constantly grows and grows. You noticing one brother, for example, doesn't make it to the Olympics, and a reason behind that, and there's a thing called the Von Erich curse. So you hear about little things like this that goes up and further, and then when, you know, the first tragedy happens in this movie, and then the second one happens like that, and then the third one happens like it's like back to back almost. In a sense, you know, it doesn't happen that quickly. It kind of does. You're just waiting for the next shoe to drop. And because the Von Erichs are a family based off of tragedy in wrestling, they're one of wrestling historic families, but yet they all have a tragic past to them. And I remember growing up watching wrestling and hearing the Von Erichs and hearing about like what happened to them, and then watching the 2009 Hall of Fame induction, the WWE Hall of Fame induction for the Von Erichs, and only one of them standing there, which was Kevin. Which, you know, like, you're like, man. And so going into this movie knowing that the Von Erichs have a movie about them was kind of like, all right, well, let's see how this movie's going to be. Because if you're a wrestling fan, you know wrestling lore and wrestling history. This movie's, it's going to be a sad movie. And this movie is definitely a sad movie. So you're going to watch the Iron Claw thing. It's going to be a happy-go-lucky wrestling movie. This movie, sadly, is not going to be a happy movie, but it's definitely a movie that it's worth listening to and worth watching. This movie hit a lot of points about family, about brotherhood, about fatherhood, about motherhood, and points about, you know, how you should treat your brothers and how you should treat your kids, and when you should listen, when you shouldn't listen, and when you should take action. You see things going on. This movie talks about all that, and it kind of, and it doesn't talk about like throw it in your face, but you can definitely see it, and you're just like, you just want to reach out to these brothers and kind of be like, you know what, somebody got you. You want to give them a hug, but sadly, that's not how it happens. And I remember the one I knew the most is Kerry Von Erich, like the Texas Tornado. I knew of him. I knew he's an IC champion. I knew of him, but I knew of the battles against the Freebirds. I knew of the Von Erichs. I knew they're like this great wrestling family. And I knew the real life brothers. I know how they, you know, ended. I just didn't know which one went out and which one and how they went out. And the Von Erich curse is something I knew growing up, and this movie definitely hits on that. And the themes it hits on this movie were definitely worth, you know, paying attention to and taking it as a movie, not just an entertainment movie, but a movie about life lessons and a moment to just, you know, listen to your family, listen to your brothers and sisters when they're going through things, and kind of be there for them. And sometimes it can take somebody just saying like, hey, you know, we need to help somebody out and not just let them suffer. And this movie, definitely a movie of that. It's a tough movie to watch. Like, as far as like emotional wise, you're going to go on a roller coaster watching this movie. You're going to be at the highest of highs, and then get dropped to the lows, and you'll be like, man. And the movie, it's a tragedy. The movie is a tragedy as far as the lifestyles of the Von Erichs, but that's what reality happens to this family. It's definitely a movie of emotions, and it's kind of like one of those movies where you're just like, at the end of the day, you kind of walk away like you want to hug somebody. You want to hug somebody. The negatives in this movie that I might have would be, I really don't have a negative. I think every actor and actress do their job. The writing and dialogue is done really, really well. Nothing about this movie seems cheesy. The only negative I have would be Ric Flair. If you all watch, you know the Von Erichs history. If you're a wrestling fan, you know their history. You know Ric Flair faces, the Von Erichs, and faces Kevin. I think the only thing I have is that the guy who did Ric Flair impersonation, or the actor they picked for Ric Flair, I understand Ric Flair is a larger-than-life human being. His wrestling persona is even greater than that. And the actor who was doing Ric Flair, bless his heart, because he had to do a hard role. But, like, to me, he didn't hit Ric Flair, and I get that. It's a hard role to play. It's hard to be the, woo, nature boy. Like, I get that, and that impersonation I did of Ric Flair is also horrible. And he tried to do a Ric Flair promo, and it just, the charisma that Ric Flair brings, that actor didn't touch that charisma. But also, once again, I get it. It is a hard person to follow and a hard person to try to imitate. He did his best, but that's the only nitpick I have. Like, other than that, I don't really have a nitpick for this movie. All right. Let's go ahead and get into cast and details. So, The Iron Claw came out 2023. It's rated R, 2 hours and 12 minutes. And I didn't notice it being 2 hours and 12 minutes. We did feel it as the movie progressed through. There were people who got up and used the bathroom multiple times. So you're planning on sitting through this movie, just be ready for that time frame. But the movie flows and it keeps you engaged. So I didn't really get lost in it. But I know people in the audience got up and used the bathroom multiple times during this movie. So that might say something. Director is Sean Durkin. The writer is Sean Durkin. So he did both. Stars Zac Efron, who is Kevin Von Erich. I mean, Zac Efron is going for Oscar in this movie. Like, he is doing a great job in this movie, from the crying, from standing up, from the arguing, from the yelling to, I mean, he is trying to get an Oscar for this one. Like, leading role, 1000%. Jeremy Allen White, who plays Kerry Von Erich, also great job, also great emotion from him, like good work from him, and just their reaction and body language towards each other. Great work. Harris Dickinson, who plays David Von Erich, great job from him as well. Mara Tierney, who played Doris Von Erich. She's the mother of the Von Erichs. She does a great job being a mother who's like, I'm not getting into this. Please tell your dad. I'm saying Alvis, like, she did a good job in that role. Hope McCauley, who plays Fritz Von Erich, who's the father of the Von Erichs. He does a great job. He probably the supporting actor in this, and I think he does a great job as well. He's trying to get an Oscar too. And he's kind of that father figure who, boys don't cry. You handle your own business. You gotta go do this. You gotta do this for me. Do this for the family. Like, he is definitely that father figure who is living vicariously through his kids, because he couldn't get the opportunity to do it, and he's pushing it on his kids. His kids are feeling the weight of that. Great work from him. You have Stanley Simmons, who played Mike Von Erich. I thought he did a good job being the brother who didn't want to be a wrestling brother, but he got into it because his brothers, that was their dreams. Great work from him as well. And then Lily James, who plays Pam, thought she did a good job being the wife of Kevin and kind of introducing herself and being like a supporting actress, but also like she's not still in the show, but she's definitely there. Great job from her. I really think this, like, great cast, great acting from all around. All right, any other thoughts? This movie, I really don't have any other thoughts. Music was solid. The directing and camera angles was good. Like there's scenes where the camera had a bird eyes angle. It's an A24 film, but it was a bird's eye angle, so you look at above and seeing like from the background, like what's going on when the Vi and Eric are talking to each other, and then you have them up close to each other in like different angles. Or like maybe one person seeing something and something in the background is disappearing. Like I don't know what Sean Durkin does on the kind of movies he make, but there's like not horror aspect, but things that you'll see like somebody sitting here and then they look back over the show and that person's disappeared. It's not a horror thing. It's just a blurry person image of like maybe this person's watching over somebody. Little tips like that. The only thing, because it's a wrestling movie, they do a lot of cuts in the ring. They don't actually show wrestling, but also I can't get mad at that. It's not something that people are coming to watch. You're not gonna watch them wrestle and do actual wrestling moves. So there's a lot of cuts and tricks. So you probably have stunt doubles or other like actual wrestlers in the ring doing moves and certain stuff. And heck, it could have been the actual actors doing it, but when you cut the camera angle so much and cut to different scenes and cut to different moves where like it doesn't flow like a wrestling match, it's just cut. Maybe there's some different stuff going on there where like there's different wrestlers coming in and stunt doubling for that Von Erichs in this movie. But it was fine. It was fine. Like it didn't distract from the movies. The camera angles, I think somebody who don't really look at movies like I do and put it underneath the critical lens might not even know the camera angles, cuts, and all that stuff. I noticed it, but also I'm also a wrestling fan. So this movie hits me in two ways. It hits me in the storytelling aspect of a movie, and it also hits me for a wrestling fan. So I noticed those kind of things, and I thought it was fun. Didn't think they distracted from the movie as much. All right. Grading time, or should I say grading time? Is this a Friday night movie? Or a movie you should see in theaters? I think you should see this movie in theaters just because I want to see like the Von Erichs kind of get some comeuppance and a happy ending, and Zac Efron deserves an Oscar for his role, but other than that, not really. And grading time, I'm going to grade The Iron Claw for 2023. I'm going to give this movie an A-. It gets a 90% for me. It's a great movie, solid. The 2 hours and 12 minutes time frame might be a little long for some people. It's not like an action-packed movie, back-to-back action, but it definitely is a slower build as far as pacing-wise. But then when it hits, and it's just like back-to-back tragedy in this movie, which you're like, oh my gosh, it hurts to watch at certain points. But the emotions in this movie that the movie brings and delivers is really, really good. The ending is solid. I definitely think this movie is an A-, a 90%. Like, it's some strong stuff in this movie that, you know what, the actors do a great job. It's a good movie. It's the great movie. I think A- definitely hits that for sure. IMDb gives this movie a 8.1 out of 10. That is a B-. Rotten Tomatoes gives this movie an 87%. That is a B+. And the critics give this movie, or since I say the audience gives this movie a 96%. That is a solid A. So I'm right there at a 90% with an A-. I think the one thing of people getting up believing this movie for me kind of distracted me, which kind of put in perspective that this movie might not be as great as I want it to be. So like other people might look at me like, it's not that great of a movie, but it's a good movie, but it's not that great. So I think other people might put it in the B range, but I personally will put this movie in an A- range. That is a 90%. So if you've seen the movie The Iron Claw, what did you think? Go out there and check it. Go out there and see what it's about. What did you think? Please put in the comment section below. Other than that, see you guys next episode of Movie Breakdowns, and keep being awesome. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate that. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If there's a review you want me to watch or do, let me know. Please put it in the comment section below this video. Also, you want to watch the last episode of Movie Breakdowns, it's right there. Just gotta click on it and you'll be able to watch it. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Love y'all, and keep being awesome.